Welcome to Soul Study, the podcast where we explore personal growth, spirituality, and the deeper questions of what it means to consciously create a life we love. Think of this as your weekly book club for the soul. Each episode will study powerful ideas from transformative books, reflect how they apply to real life, and gently challenge ourselves to grow together. This isn't about perfection, it's about awareness. It's about remembering that you are energy, you are powerful, and you are always in a state of creation. Here, we take what resonates and leave the rest. So take a breath, open your heart, and get ready to become your most magnetic self. Let's begin today's Soul Study. Hi everyone, Jules here, and welcome back to Soul Study, the podcast to help you become your happiest, healthiest, most magnetic self. Last week, we learned about our new author of the 4 Agreements and dove right into Chapter 1. In Chapter 1, we talked about what are our agreements and our belief systems, and that we have made agreements with ourselves about life, who we are, and the world around us. We also talked about how maybe some of those agreements may not be true. So this week we were diving into Chapter 2, which is the first agreement out of the 4 agreements. And that agreement is be impeccable with your word. So we're going to talk about what that means and how we can practice that in our everyday lives. Before we dive in, last week we did have our Soul Study challenge of soul pages. And that was to take one day this week and write stream of consciousness writing for about 1 to 2 pages before you looked at your phone. For myself, I had to look at my phone because I was writing it on my phone because I was at work because I had to wake up super early to go to work and I didn't have time to sit down before work. So I grabbed my phone and I wrote it down once I got to work. So that's what I did. So it wasn't the most successful soul challenge ever, but at least I still got something done. And I actually wrote about a dream I had, which was pretty fun. So let me know if that worked for you guys and how it went for you. Let me know in the comments below. Let's dive into the book and go over Chapter 2. Our first quote today is going to be on page 26. And on 26, it says, "Your word is the power that you have to create. What you dream, what you feel, and what you really are will all be manifested through the word." So I kind of swished 2 parts of the chapter together to make one quote. But yeah, we're talking about how words are powerful, that our word is powerful. And this very much connects to what we talked about in our last book, The Key to Living the Law of Attraction. We talked about how your word is something that is going to call in and attract the things that you want or don't want into your life, because we are always attracting things into our lives. What this made me think of when I very first read it was the Bible. And it says, in the beginning, the Word was with God and the Word was God. If you've seen that passage, that I forget which passage that is. Let me look that up really quick. Oh yeah, it was the beginning of, it was in John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So that's what that made me think about, because if you think about it, saying the Word was with God and the Word was God, my belief system is that God is it's a frequency, it's an energy. God is an all-encompassing being that's in everything. And our words are frequencies. Our words are manifestations of the ethereal into the physical. Like how we talked about in the last book, that everything is a frequency, our voice produces frequencies. And so we are using our voice to mimic and match different frequencies of things that are out there in the world. Now, our words, whether that be through speaking or writing or any sort of communication, our words take the non-physical and make it physical through our voice, our writing, or through our communicative actions, for instance, sign language. So what this kind of says is that communication is the path to take ideas and create them into reality. Our words have the power to create. So they not only create the energy around us, but our words have the power to create new ideas into this world. And so this first agreement actually aligns a lot with what we learned in The Key to Living the Law of Attraction, because using our words, we are attracting everything around us. Using our words, we are using that power to create the things around us. So we're basically just reiterating some stuff that we already know about in another way, being impeccable with our word, using our word as that power of creation. Now, how do I think about using my words to create in my daily life? I use affirmations constantly, especially when I'm feeling down on myself. Like if I'm feeling negative, if I'm not feeling very confident, I will usually say some affirmations just to reaffirm who I am and how I view the world and what my place is in the world. That's what I use my word for. And I also, as an artist, I'm creating all of the time. And so I'm using my words to create a lot in a conscious way. And sometimes I forget that I also am using my words subconsciously to create as well, or unconsciously to create as well. And that's what I need to focus on. I'm recognizing that now I'm creating using my words when I'm not even thinking about it. So even if you're like saying something or complaining about, like venting about something to a friend and complaining a lot, that's also you using the power of creation, but maybe not in the way that you want it to. So I'm trying to catch myself more in those moments. That's how I'm using this in my everyday life. Now you can do that too. You can take note of what you say in your everyday life and really see, is that something that the person of that who you want to be, your future self that you want to become, like your most ideal self, is that something that they would say? Or is this something that they wouldn't say? Like start looking at yourself for that. And like I said, you don't have to get on yourself. You don't have to be negative. You don't have to punish yourself for not doing what you're supposed to be doing. The thing is, you're just observing. You're getting to know yourself. That's really what this is. And that's really all I have to say about the first quote. Second quote is going to be on page 31. I think we're just kind of diving a little bit deeper into what being impeccable with our word actually means. It says, a sin is anything that you do which goes against yourself. Everything you feel or believe or say that goes against yourself is a sin. Now, when I first read this, this kind of like, boom, kind of just hit me. Because growing up in a Christian family with that religion, they talk a lot about sin all the time. They're like, we are sinners. This is sin. Don't do this because it's a sin. You'll go to hell if you sin. That was how I was raised, and it was definitely a lot of fear. Now, looking at a sin, and I was really thinking about this. I don't know if this is exactly what he means by it, but this is kind of how I interpreted. And let me know if you kind of understand where this is going. So this idea of going against yourself as being a sin, that really hit me in such a good way, because it shows, number one, like it's stating that it's a sin means that there's a lot of weight to it. Like going against yourself has a lot of weight to it. There's impact. And let me know what you guys think about this. Living against yourself is living against your highest excitement and living against your most heartfelt desires. And so going against the reason that you may have come to earth, going against the reasons that you've come here to experience life here in the first place is a sin. Because if we believe that God is in all of us, and God is all of us, or even if you believe that God gave you your talents and your dreams, so then going against them would in a way be a sin, because you're going against and separating from God. All a sin is a separation from God. It's something that is separating us from the divine. And so if going against yourself, going against the God within yourself, the divine part within yourself is something that you're doing, going against that is a sin, because it is separating you from yourself, from your divine core inside of you, from what you came on this earth to do. So I really like this quote because it really makes you think about the impact of not following your highest excitement and your most heartfelt desires. I really see this, like once I read this, I really started applying this into my everyday life, because I find and I notice that when I go against myself, when I go against my highest excitement, I find that problems start popping up into my life over and over again. And I'm like, oh my gosh, life seems so chaotic right now. What's going on? Why is this happening? And it's because I'm realizing I'm going against my flow. I'm living against myself. And then the flip side also happens. I feel like when I am following my highest excitement and my heartfelt desires, I see that miracles start popping up all over the place with ease. It almost feels like I'm not even doing anything and things are happening. This quote has made it really interesting to compare what I believed and what I struggled with growing up with, like sin and hell, and if you sin too much going to hell, to now kind of seeing like what do I define sin as? And I define sin as something that is separating me from God, not a list of rules to gain God's approval. Because the thing is, my belief system, you're already approved by God. The sin is what's just what is separating you from it. It's not a judgment thing. It's more of a intention and connection thing. That's kind of how I see it. Especially since this is a little bit of a side note, but I do think they talk about it in the book I think towards the end they talk about it of this chapter, but they talk about hell, and I think that'd be a good thing to talk about right here. I personally believe I struggled a lot with the idea, especially when I was first getting into self-help and manifestation and spirituality. My dark night of the soul, and maybe I'll do a separate episode on specifically what a dark night of the soul is and what one of mine kind of looked like, because you can't have multiple. But what my first major one looked like was me not sleeping very well for like a week and having constant mental breakdowns of me thinking that I was going to go to hell for even looking into this stuff or even thinking about this stuff. Even just having those thoughts and questions in my head, I thought I was going to hell. And that is something I struggled with for like a couple weeks there. Luckily, it was during the time of COVID, and I feel like that gave me the time to process and get through that really easily. But what I came out on the other side believing, and I'm still, I'm totally open to these things that I believe right now not being correct if proven otherwise. Like, this is just what I believe currently. But what I believe is that Earth and being here, if you had to think of a place as hell, that would be here currently on Earth, because we are separated from God. We come down with no memory of anything on the other side. We come down like to lower frequencies, so we actually separate ourselves from the frequency of God. So that's what I believe hell is if you wanted to give it a physical place. But what I more so believe is that hell is a state of mind and a state of being. So when you are struggling and you are really in a place where you feel mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually separated from God, like that is hell. Separated from the universal consciousness source, that is hell. I don't believe it is a place that we go to when we die after we've been judged. Yeah, that's a subject that was really hard for me. So I'm really hoping if there's anyone out there that's also struggling with that you can listen to this and think about it a little bit more and hopefully give you a little bit of peace of mind. But yes, going back to this quote with saying that like hell is a state of being and that sin is just things that you do or the ways that you act that are just separating yourself from God, which is separating yourself from your highest excitement and from maybe the whole reason or purpose that you came to earth. That's not being impeccable with your word. So that's another thing that's really stood out to me in this part of the chapter. So how can you do some of these things? How can you take what this quote is saying and apply it to your life? Is number one, you can take a look at where you are going against your highest excitement and your heartfelt desires. Like, where are you going against yourself? You could also start doing the things that you feel like are more aligned with yourself, that are more aligned with your highest excitement, even if it's not like the thing that you think is the most, because sometimes like what you feel like is your highest excitement is dropping everything and going and traveling the world for 3 months. And like, obviously we have responsibilities. We can't just do that right away. But what we can do is start working on taking steps to get there. That's following your highest excitement, even if it's not just dropping everything and going. Like, there are ways to take these one step at a time and have a gradual transition into living into your highest excitement. And the biggest thing is also just get to know yourself, like get to know who you are, because then you can find out what those highest excitements are. And I think we talked about this in the last book too. It's like, know thyself, know thyself. That's like the biggest, most impactful 2 words that are in human history is just know thyself. So those are some things that you can do to start thinking about applying these quotes to your life, and also maybe defining what you think is a sin. Going from that too, like, what do you think is a sin, and how does this be a sin being going against yourself? How does that make you feel? So that's quote number 2. Let's move on to quote number 3. Quote number 3 is on page 31. It's, I think, literally right under that other quote. But I wanted to separate them into 2 different ideas. So quote number 3 says, "When you are impeccable, you take responsibility for your actions, but you do not judge or blame yourself." So being impeccable, it's kind of like what we talked about in the last book with everything being your fault and like taking accountability. What we talked about there and what it's bringing up now is that there is no blame or shame or judgment when you are being impeccable, like when you are taking accountability. What is happening is that you are owning up to your actions and also cleaning up any messes that you may have made with them without being hard on yourself. Because the thing is, we are human. We are here to learn. You are going to make mistakes. That is just life. And instead of being hard on yourself and using it as a fear thing, we can use that as a growth thing and being like, oh, okay, this is what I learned from that. You apologize to who you need to apologize to. You're like, yes, I will own up. I did do that thing. Maybe don't believe in this, or maybe I know now that was not okay for me to do. And if I knew what I knew now at the time, I wouldn't have done it, but I still own up that I did do that. Like, taking an accountability and being responsible for your actions without like degrading yourself is a huge step of being impeccable. You're being honest. You're being true. because that's what being impeccable really is. It is being honest and owning your word. And this can be hard because how many times we do or say things that we don't really mean, or we say things to put other people down, or like gossip just to stay in the loop. Like that is all not being impeccable with our word. That is just using our word as what they say in the book, black magic. They talk about like black magic and white magic in the book, and like how we can use our words to cast spells and it be good or bad. Yeah. And what they talk about in the book is like how we use our words as spells, and we need to use them for the light. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably trying to have a more positive, higher vibrational life. And so using your words as spells and using them for the light, the positive side is definitely, and being impeccable with your word is definitely going to help you reach that goal of that life you want to create for yourself. Because a lot of the times we can unconsciously start speaking in a way that is putting other people down. And so what we really need to do is just catch ourselves and work on stopping ourselves from doing things like that. This actually ties into like stuff that I have seen myself do in the past. Now, I found like most girls in middle school or high school and school years that I was very, very shy and like didn't really have a lot of friend groups or like talk to a lot of people. But I did find that I really liked listening to gossip. And then when other girls were talking about gossip, like feeding into it because I wanted to be in the loop. Like I was scared of being outcasted and rejected. So like, even though I didn't like have a lot of gossip to give, I would still not stop it. And I would still like egg it on and like continue it to feel like I was a part of something. So that I will totally own up to that. Like I have done that. I'm sure many, many, many other people out there have all done that. But the thing is, that's not using my word impeccably, because looking back, I feel bad about how I had used my words for not the power of good. I used my words to put other people down and to cast judgment, which we have no right to cast judgment on other people. Now, for instance, like since I became an adult and onwards, so the last very long time, when things like that do arise, I try to slow down my thought process. And I try to respond instead of react. And I try to reply in ways that are using my words to put light into the world, lift others up, and also say what my heart wants me to say. Not what my ego wants me to say, what my heart wants me to say. So that's kind of how I've been using this being impeccable in my everyday life, is being honest with my heart, being true and owning up to my own words, and really trying to use my words for good. You know? So you can kind of do that in your life too. You can listen to what you say. You can take a breath and look at what being impeccable would look like in that situation, and figuring out what having your words be impeccable means to you. What does being impeccable with your word mean to you? So that's how you can start working on this in your everyday life. And also just like really catching yourself if you find yourself starting to talk about gossip, like especially to people that like don't need to know about it. Like really try to catch yourself, because especially us girlies, I know sometimes like we have the tea, we like talking about the tea. There's a fad of spilling the tea, but be cautious, because you could be accidentally or unconsciously casting negativity, and that's not what we want. That's not what we want to do. If we're trying to be impeccable with our word, that's not what we're trying to do. Let's move on to quote number 4. That is on page 43. This one is short, sweet, and to the point. It says, "Your opinion is nothing but your point of view. It is not necessarily true." I love this. This made me think, and I also think this really helps in the sense of relationships. What this means is that our feelings and emotions are valid, but the opinions and beliefs that triggered them may not be true. I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. Our feelings and emotions are valid, but the opinions and beliefs we have that triggered them may not be true. So that right there could be a whole quote in and of itself. So this asks us to take another look at our belief systems and opinions. Ask yourself if this belief or opinion is really true. Is it helping you or hindering you? Where is it coming from? Because first things first, we need to feel our emotions, and like the emotions that we are feeling are real. Like when we feel triggered, we are actually feeling those emotions. They are coming up. Like those are true emotions, and you need to give yourself a way to process them in a healthy way. that is not going to tear other people down. You need to take responsibility to process those emotions and actually like give them space to feel, because those are true emotions. But the thing that created those emotions, the belief system, the thought pattern, may not be true. Like I said, this is really helpful when it comes to relationships. Oh my gosh, with my boyfriend and I, because there are so many little areas of frustration or little fights that we can get into that like he does something that hurts me because I was like, oh my gosh, like he just doesn't care. That's something that I think about a lot. Like he'll do something and I'm like, oh my gosh, he just doesn't care. And I feel hurt and he doesn't care. I talked to him about it. Obviously that's not true. Like he really does care. He just didn't he didn't know that that was something that was going to hurt me. And so like that, you know what I mean? Like we all get into that, especially with our partners. There's like something where our partner does something and affects us a certain way and we run a whole story about it, but then that story, that opinion, that belief is not true. Like that's not what they're thinking about at all. So that's kind of where I've seen it in my life is number one, just be like, okay, like is this actually like, yes, I'm feeling this way and that is okay. And I need to process those feelings and let him know that I am feeling this way. But is what I'm thinking about as to why he did it, is that true? I need to ask him. Communication. So start seeing if those beliefs or opinions are actually true. This could also be like small everyday ideologies, but it also can be bigger ideologies. It could be about like how you believe, like what you believe about money, what you believe about politics, what you believe about social ideologies, what you believe about religion. Like it could be any one of those things. Like you can look at those opinions and see if they're actually true, if they're actually not true. It could be with really big stuff like that, broad stuff, or little stuff. Also, what I've realized with a lot of those big things is that I don't really have super strong opinions on those because like, I don't know. I try to do a lot of research for myself and like really, really try to make it so that my opinions are my own and I'm not being swayed by someone else's opinion. And I realized that, and this may not be true, this may be a bold statement, but what I've realized is that strong opinions usually lead to closed-mindedness and conflict rather than working towards unity. I don't know if you've seen that too, but like strong opinions can even be for things that are really good. But I find that if they are too strong, it just leads to more conflict because there's an aggression there. So having an open-mindedness of like hearing the other side, whatever the other side of your opinion is, can help a lot to bring things together. And the thing is, you don't have to pick up that opinion. You can listen to their opinion without believing in it. And also you can like use that to understand where they're coming from and find areas of commonality and areas of unity. Because being open-minded unites us, being closed-minded separates us. That's what I've noticed, especially with beliefs and opinions within the last couple of years and the current state of affairs within the world. So there's a lot of divide. We need to bring ourselves back together. Nowadays, before I take on an opinion, and I think I mentioned this a little bit already, but before I take on an opinion, I really need to ask, why do I have this opinion? And do I know all the facts? And also, I need to take and learn things for myself instead of believing and taking others' opinions as my own. I need to actually come up with my own opinion and not just mimic and regurgitate someone else's opinion that they just said to me. Like, is it mine? Is it someone else's? And I really think that's something that everybody should be doing. It's hard, but I really think that would be very beneficial in our society / the world. So how you can do this is do those things. Before you give your opinion to someone, first ask, where did that opinion come from? Is it actually my own? I don't know. And let yourself process your feelings and then take a look at what belief triggered you to feel that way. Allow yourself to process your feelings because those are true, but then look at the opinion or belief that triggered them. Is that true? Take a look. I still need to do this. Don't worry, you are not on your own. I am not perfect at this. I am still working through this myself every single day. And that's really it. That's being impeccable with your word. So to summarize, being impeccable with your word means using the power of your voice and thoughts consciously with intention, speaking your truth, taking responsibility without shame, and choosing words that create light for yourself and for others. So that is being impeccable with your word. That is what we learned today. And now you know the first out of the 4 agreements. Now, once again, we got 3 more journal prompts for you this week, and we also are going to go into our soul study challenge. So let's do it. Journal prompt number 1. Think about the words you've been using most lately in conversations, in your self-talk, and on social media. Are they creating the life and person you want to be? Write about what it would look like to be truly impeccable with your word for just one day. What would you stop saying, and what would you start saying? Journal prompt number 2. Is there an area of your life where you've been silencing your heartfelt desires to please others, fit in, or play it safe? What does it feel like in your body when you go against yourself? Write about one place where you could start honoring yourself more, no matter how small the step. And journal prompt number 3, pick one strong opinion or belief that you hold about yourself, others, or the world. Where did it come from? Is it truly yours, or did you just absorb it from somebody else? Does it bring you closer to love and openness, or does it create separation and judgment? And those are 3 journal prompts for this week. I really like these ones. I think this book is really good. It gives some really interesting things to think about. Now let's do our soul study wheel spin to see our soul challenge for the week. Let me pull it up. All right, let's give her a spin. What do we got? All right, this week we got Victor Mindset. So let me tell you guys what that is all about. Okay, Victor Mindset. We might have already gotten this one. I can't remember. Also, what I'm going to do next time is I'm going to add more specific to the book soul challenges. So next week we'll have some new ones. Also, if you have any soul challenges that you want to recommend, please leave a comment or DM me. I would love to add some more of the challenges that you guys want to do to the wheel. So Victor Mindset is look at everything that happens this week as being something you manifested and reflect on it. We did do this one already last time. So once again, see life around you as things your belief systems are manifesting. So make sure while you're practicing being impeccable with your word this week, look at everything that's happening around you and see it as something that you manifested. And that is it for today, guys. Once again, if you still need to buy the book, The 4 Agreements, that link will be below in the description, so you guys can buy it there. I also have it on bookshop.com, Amazon, and on Audible. So you can choose where you'd like to get it from. And please, I would love to read some of your guys' comments, and or if it's during your book reading and you have something you want to share or tell me. I am going to be doing another listener episode after this book is done. But if you have things you want to send in already for that episode, please email them to dreamlifejules@gmail.com. That is DREAMLIFEJULES@gmail.com. Or you can DM me on Instagram at dreamlifejules as well, and I can add those in for our listener episode coming up. Remember, if you want to follow the Soul Study podcast, it is on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Podcast. And if you want to watch the video podcast, that is on YouTube as well, all under Soul Study. And if you want to see more from me, you can follow me on Instagram and YouTube at dreamlifejules. Once again, thank you guys so much for listening in. Take what resonates, leave the rest, and I hope you have an amazing week becoming your happiest, healthiest, most magnetic selves. And until next time, bye.